With no police or national army to keep order, medieval society was extremely violent. For many villages, attacks were a constant threat. Coastal settlements like Cosmiston were a favourite target for small bands of marauders who'd sail up the coast looking for easy pickings. The skirmishes were extremely chaotic, and the invaders would try to steal as much as possible before setting fire to the village and making off again in their boats. But even if you escaped these attacks, you could well meet your fate at the hand of your own villagers. In the early part of the Middle Ages, innocence and guilt were decided by combat and ordeal. Nobles and wealthy people would be allowed to undergo trial by combat. All they had to do to prove their innocence was win a fight. The result had little to do with justice. But for most people accused of a crime, the only option was trial by ordeal. This technique was so brutal it was banned by the Pope in 1215. One method involved making the accused hold a red-hot iron bar. If the wound wasn't beginning to heal 3 days later, they were guilty. Another was to tie them up and drop them in a river. If they floated, they were guilty, and if they sank, they were innocent. As a result, many of those found innocent actually drowned.
Well, before the weighty matters of justice are dispensed with the reading of payment and fines, I believe we have a matter to settle with Master Caradog. There has been an accusation of theft laid against you, Caradog.
Theft, my lord?
Yes,
Surely not.
Yes, the accusation laid before me is the theft of one lucky charm from Master Griffith the baker. Come then, Caradog. You have been charged with this theft. What say you?
Trial by jury was introduced by Henry II in 1166. But although it seemed fairer, the system was still open to abuse. The Lord would oversee the so-called manorial court. Villagers acted as the jury, so the outcome often had more to do with a person's popularity than whether they'd actually committed the crime.
What say you, Walter?
In the stocks.
At least a week. For him? At least a week is too harsh.
But if you were found guilty, the punishments were extremely severe. Thieves were whipped and even had their feet and hands cut off. Frequent offenders and anyone found guilty of murder would be hung on the gallows that stood outside each town. For minor crimes, people were fined and placed in the stocks. Here, they could be taunted, punched, and pelted with mud or dung. Looking back, the courts may have seemed chaotic and the punishments barbaric. But these courts remain the basis for our modern legal system. In fact, the more we discover about life in medieval Europe, the more we realise how much it's influenced and shaped our society today.